All right.
Thought you was a nurse.
They don't
Well,
believe
she
in
said you was a nurse.
them. They don't like them.
She's a nurse. Oh, well, I'm not a doctor,
Who else?
but man, sometimes I think I
Anybody
am.
else?
He's better than I am.
Okay. So
I got it.
okay.
That I know
So
of.
cat style.
Who's that?
One of the first things a lot of people want to know about is, hey, how does it work? Okay, so you have two competing schools of thought. You're going to have, and I'll pick on you since you're a nurse. You have the style that most EMS is going to, that most medicals are going to now. They're going to say 2 to 3 inches above the point of injury, not on top of a joint. So, lop my hand off, or I have an arterial injury, or it's a venous injury on my wrist. In EMS or in a hospital, in a triage, they're going to put that just below the elbow, try to stop, get it on super tight, couple of twists. Obviously, I did not get the Velcro on. Try to occlude. If you go with the way that wilderness med and the military goes, rule high and tight. So you go as high into the junction as you can get, and you cinch down on it. Get the Velcro on it, and then you're going to start cranking. It's not comfortable. Honestly, the best way to teach this is to do it to somebody else, because most people are not going to crank this to the point that it hurts. They're going to back off. Well, you got to get it to the point that you're like, ooh, that's real uncomfortable.
Watch his hand.
Yeah.
His veins get down, and
Yeah.
there's no color coming back to those fingers, you know you cut it out.
Once you get to the point of, ooh, that kind of hurts a little bit, turn it again. So you're going to really get that on there, twist it, put it in. Yeah, and when you get to the point that you start losing feeling in your hand, you're like, great, okay, I've got that. So on the cat style, okay, same thing for a leg. If you're getting into a leg, it's gonna be hard to do this on a leg.
I'm not doing
Just
that.
swing it up yourself. Honestly, it's easier to take it,
They're down there.
take it, throw it under.
What a pain in the ass.
Same thing.
I think you got them more
You
out
want
of it.
this tight. So you want the strap to do all the work for you to begin with. And I got that on real tight. So then once you go there, that is uncomfortable. Yeah, no, that was uncomfortable enough when I strapped it down. You've got to get this, because the way that these work is you're creating tension against the flow of blood by using the muscles against the bones. So when you start trapping this, you want the muscle tissue itself to trap, in this case, the femoral artery. You want to trap the femoral artery using the quadriceps against the femur. So same thing, that's why a lot of times they don't like to use them below the calf, because you got the space there between the tib. There's not a lot of space to trap that, so they usually go above, even if it's down here. Same thing with the arm radius and ulna here. There's not a lot of space. You can try to trap it, but then going here. If this doesn't work, you say, great, he's still leaking. Great, what am I going to do?
And pressure didn't work. You
Get
gotta
another
go
one
with
on
another
there.
And I'm just doing this backwards, but we're going to take this one and we're going to go just far enough below this one. And that is real uncomfortable. And we're going to do the same thing. We're going to take it. We're going to go right below the other tourniquet. And I ain't turning that one anymore. We're going to go here. Same thing with the duct tape from before. if it's bad enough that you put a tourniquet on it, you're going to tape over that windlass, because this is cool in theory. That is absolutely useless, because if I get here, that wheel under pressure, that's going to rip that off. It's a timestamp. Rule of thumb is if you put a tourniquet on somebody, you're actually going to write on them, generally on their forehead. People are like, well, if I don't have a marker, they're bleeding a lot. Here, write it on their chest, write it somewhere. Okay, I gotta take these off. Yeah, I mean, so it will be evident. You will have something to write with on them when you do this. The cat is what most people are using now. They're really good for upper arms, upper extremities, because they're super easy to use one-handed. If you guys get a tourniquet, don't really, I mean, honestly, don't practice with the one that you're using all the time. But when you stage these, stage it when people are like, they're trying to make some fine art out of how to stage a tourniquet. Put the windlass inside it. Your Velcro, you actually don't really want hard locked, or if you lock it at all, a lot of times we just put them under, but just keep the windlass in under there. Put it in something that you can get. So I'm going to say it's my left arm. I can get here. So I've got it in one hand. Pull, turn. So you don't want something that's completely unraveled, completely unrolled. That's not really going to work on your leg, because you're going to have to go down. Well, you may possibly have to go over a shoe. In an amputation injury, that's not going to be the case. But for...
I see a lot of people stage them things too small. Too.
Yes.
They'll take them and they'll suck them up about that big and start trying to wrap them and fold them. Stretch them things out, get you a big loop. If it's a leg injury, it's already set for a leg injury. You don't have to fumble with it. You can just flick it out, throw it on, grab it, and suck it down. And a lot of people, they'll take. You get over here for it. Show you the common mistake that I see.
So you've got...
A lot of these guys will pull them up like that right there. Take that thing and stretch it.
Make it bigger.
Yeah, stretch that thing out, get it out here. And what I always do is take mine and hold it, and I fold it one loop, two loops, and wrap it rubber band and wherever I put it, so I can grab and just pull. Rubber band come off. That's that kit you gave me.
Yeah.
You had them bands on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I figured out that you can grab right in the center of that and pull.
Yeah.
And it just plays
It'll
off.
pull straight out.
Yep.
You can use rubber bands. I mean,
Rubber bands
you
are
can
nice.
use a regular I mean, you can buy something to go on it. It's kind of a waste of money.
Keep it on.
Rubber bands are the best thing, especially if you're running through Molly. Take it, stretch it above and below through your Molly. It'll run right through the top of this. It'll snap right off. Or you can get one end of it pulled out. Yes, this is the soft wide. I'll pass that around. If y'all ever seen some of these, there's two versions. There's the first version that's set up like this, that has two. They've got two clips
I
in
don't
it.
use those anymore.
Do it.
I haven't seen any, never seen them.
They're
This is a style I think.
the medics use these a lot, but they prefer these for legs. But you've got two of them now. You got this version that actually clips in.
That's the one that we snap.
So you got these,
Like a plastic one.
Yeah.
and then you've got the one that actually has the two ends on it to trap the windlass.
Just holding one side instead of
So when you actually run this,
and they'll snap.
these are harder to run one-handed,
It'll spin and done.
just
So you
because
guys use the triangle.
you've got the clip here for the old. This is the old version. So this is they don't make this version anymore.
They went to this style here.
So this is the original. This is the original combat tourniquet. So before they came out with the cats, they did these.
Yeah.
This
I've
is
never
the
seen those.
this is the new version of that.
The Cat 7 is what's out now.
Yeah. Well, they'll use these. They use these a lot in. It really just depends on whose choice it is to use them. They still issue these. A lot of the medics will carry them, but they'll throw them in their bag just for leg injuries, or in case something goes wrong with a cat. because this is a solid aluminum bar.
Yeah.
And you're not, and it's all web. And it's like this one, the original one, you're trapped in teeth. The problem they had with these was the set screw. People would back them all the way out and they'd screw with them literally and wouldn't set them, and they'd forget about it. This teeth, you're really not going anywhere with it, but if you set it all the way down, which you're supposed to, it's clearly you're not going to pull this strap out once it's fully there because you can't back it out. But with this one, with the new version, it's a little bit easier to work with. Same thing. You go here, you're going to pull, but this is the reason these are not ideal, because I'm having to sit here and ratchet down on this thing to get to. Now you don't have to set this one as tight initially because you really crank down on this aluminum. But you've got to set this into this triangle. So it's there. This works well. You can keep ratcheting this thing down. They use these a lot for the backups, just for the reason of if this fails, this won't. I mean, this you can't break the plastic because there's not plastic on it to break. I mean, except this piece here, but this is just holding it under tension. It's web strap. You ever do these in classes and you have people doing them buddy style? You can make people cry. It is these are fun, but for legs, these are awesome, but it takes a minute to get these off. But whatever style you would ever choose to go with, get a second one, even if it's okay. Let me say this. I'll say one thing and I'll kind of back into what I'm going to say. If you go to Amazon, if you go to eBay, if you go to wherever and you buy a knockoff, there's several of them that are decent. Buy a knockoff, play with it. You can buy them for $4 or $5. If you break it, big freaking deal. You broke it. You know, if you got your regular cats, the one that you're going to use or the two that you have, don't practice with the ones that you plan on using, just because if you stressed it too much. These are one of the most common failure points. So when you get the ears, because if this pops open again, they're done. Once you get that sprung out, it won't trap anymore. Some of those are the newer versions of them actually are a little bit more reinforced. These are a little beefier. That was one of the things they did over the older versions. Some of them are actually squared up. So those are actually very good. You can buy these in the knockoff styles and use them. They're fine. It's aluminum and web strap. There's literally, you can't really skimp on that. It is what it is. This guy, they went with the SATS tourniquet. These are trash. You can find these $10 all the time. You'll bleed to death before you ever figure out how to use this.
It's like a ratchet slack.
It is. It's exactly what it is. And that's how they designed it. So you get here, you start pulling. Okay, great. Now I've got to articulate this. Uh-oh, that's not tight enough. That's barely tight at all. Okay, great. Now I got to pull again. Okay. Oh, crap. Now it's too tight.
Oh, hell.
I can't run this ratchet really. Now what am I going to do? Well, you're trying to do it to yourself. Okay, great. Shit, I got to back this off a little bit. Now what? Oh, great. That's not tight enough again.
It ain't no good.
That'll let
2
you bleed
liters.
out there pretty quick.
Ain't no
Bled to
good.
death.
I started
I mean,
to say
so-
you're gonna have to completely release it
Yeah.
to put more tension on it.
Yeah. So
as
in
opposed to going a little more. Ain't no good.
when seconds count and people are panicky, and this is even if you're working with somebody else, people freak out when they see stuff like that. That's not the time to be figuring out how to put tension on something like that. Now, if it really mattered, could you really ratchet this thing down on somebody at work? Yeah, you could, but then you got to get it to here. Okay, great. Now you got to remember to lock it, because if you don't remember to lock it and it gets hung up on something, boom, flies open again. Great.
That's bad when you need a breaker bar for a tourniquet.
Trash. Don't buy those. If no matter how good a deal they seem like, they've dumped these nationwide. EMS doesn't use them. Hospitals don't use them, because hospitals and EMS actually went to using them because they were getting such a killer deal on them. So cities were thinking, oh great, yeah, we'll buy these. Trash. Don't buy them. Uh,
I think I'd rather use my shoelace.
well, honestly, if you're gonna do something like that, like the rats tournament that they came out with, which was literally nothing more than a bungee cord, 2 hooks on it. You set it on there, you wrap it. The key to that was you had to make 4 loops on there to make it work, but they've got to be stacked just right because you're trying not to cause tissue death. You're trying to cause direct pressure. The issue with that is when people start wrapping them like that, eventually you get it high enough, then they roll up on top of themselves. So now you actually have done exactly the opposite of what you thought you were going to do.
All right.
So that's not a, that is unfortunate. Now, here where we are right now, okay, if something bad happened right now, I'll pull my knife out and just hack my hand off real quick. We're what, max 30 minutes from medical care?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay,
Round
great.
about.
Honestly, it doesn't matter at this level. You get a tourniquet on it. If you put a couple on there, it doesn't matter. If you use the shoelace tied on it, you're not going to cause tissue death in 30 minutes. Never going to happen. Unless someone already has a severe underlying issue, diabetic, one of those things. But even then, the chances of that are super rare. You just got to do something to stop that bleeding to get them to, I mean, the national average in the U.S. is you're never more than 20 minutes from medical care. So versus when you're out wilderness or you're doing the guys overseas, whatever, it might take you 20 minutes to have somebody actually get to you to even start looking at this stuff.
All right.
And then however far they fly you to wherever you're going.
You daggum guys live in cities. I
Yeah.
went to that active shooter class. That guy said, "Police are no more than 3 minutes away," and I said, "You're right."
From a donut shop or from me?
For me.
Yeah.
Right.
No, they're only 3 minutes. I said, "Dude, I live in Perry County."
Yeah.
I said, "Most of our sheriffs are on the other side of the county. They got to come to see us."
Yeah.
But where I'm at, it's an hour and 15 minutes to medical care.
Absolutely.
From the time you hit the ground to the time they get you to the hospital is an hour and 45 minutes max. By the time they drive to you,
Yes.
get you loaded up, stabilize you, and send you out.
My mother-in-law she had to call an ambulance one time. I was at the hospital. I beat the ambulance here.
Yeah.
And sat here for another 30 minutes waiting for them to get here.
Yeah.
Before anybody showed up.
It-
What people don't understand is just like our county. Our county runs one ambulance.
Yeah.
Yep.
So if they're outside county or headed to drop off, they have to go drop off,
Yep.
drop the patient off, then drive to you, load you up, stabilize you, load you
Yes.
up, and then transport you to the hospital.
Right.
You're better off driving or having someone take you,
Right.
if possible. The did you explain this already? No. Okay. I actually was gonna grab mine.
Does it have the pretty squares on it?
That mine does, yeah.
I like the squares.
Well, money bags. I got the new one.
That's better than the dental
We're
floss.
making homemade crap.
Hey, that's better than the dental floss.
I gotta find it first, though. And get all my the bottom of my bag.
Dennis, let me tell you the best thing I've seen so far. And I need to send you video of it if I can find it. Again.
Come
I
on.
have David want to send you
No.
video.
Down.
One of the firefighters that work, he's
Down.
Like,
working
take it back to the house then.
service, and
She's
he
gonna have
moved
to
it
walk
from
her
a,
fucking happy
scenic
ass back up to the
fire
house.
He said, I know the
I'll walk up there. But you ain't gonna open the door and let it in.
put on his neck. And
She's got a
he
laundry room.
He's sitting there and it started tightening up. He's trying to turn it off. He made it up to like 110. You know it's. He made it to 110 for his eyes started bulging. It's like trying to turn it off. It was freaking awesome. I'll see if they'll send me the video and I'll send it to you guys. It's freaking hilarious.
Did you see the one that Skinny Medic had where they cut his nose off? With the samurai sword?
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I thought, man, I've done some stupid stuff in my life, but never ever anything like that.
He had something in his mouth and he's leaning back like this, and the dude with the sword is like,
Oh,
and he
yeah.
cut too close. He did. I thought that, you know, when it happened, I was like, because you see his nose flop over, and I'm like,
It's just like over
did
Star
that,
Wars.
did that just get his lips too? No, I didn't get his lips, just his nose.
Idiots.
SWAT tourniquet.
I'm not gonna do that.
Hey, what are you gonna do today? Have a samurai sword swung at me?
No.
Let's, okay, so This is basically your TheraBand and your SWAT tourniquet. About, you might actually cut it. It's slightly long, but it's,
Well, that's not quite as fast.
yeah.
We guesstimated.
Yeah. So the secret with these, which we're kind of replicating with TheraBand, which is actually how the guy developed it anyway. But then they were using bicycle inner tube. This actually was developed by a SWAT officer. There again, for what it is used for and for what it was intended for. If you have SWAT roll onto a scene, who are they always followed by? Ambulances and fire department. Generally, in a situation where they walk into a shooting, where they are there, they have EMS on scene. If something happens, one of them gets shot, there's usually people behind that once they've cleared that section to pull them immediately. So, frame of reference, this design.
Y'all getting cold?
Something on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
SWAT teams now actually have 2 minutes.
It's been over shaking. I think.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm
So they're, I mean, so they're stabilizing while they're
it's
there.
not- yeah, it's not, okay, buddy member's gonna help buddy
Yeah.
member. They actually have, like Perry County, their SWAT team has 2 paramedics that, when they go into a
Yeah.
firefight, the paramedics are right on their ass.
Yeah.
the whole way.
We rolled it up.
Yeah. So these are easier to put onto someone else.
Yeah, not yourself.
They're hard to put onto yourself because you have to get it on, get it stuck.
And you always drop it.
Yeah, you drop it, and then you've got to start creating tension under it. So you want it. So we got squares. Yeah.
Get it on there. You want to start? A little time.
There again.
You're too comfortable there.
It's getting there. You're bleeding. I don't mind. It's getting there a little bit. The other thing to note about this is blood is very slippery. So
It is.
you're talking about blood, stress.
Now,
Rubber.
No dexterity out the window.
I got a little bit. I got a little feeling, but it's kind of. You can do IVs now. But I mean, that's the thing with these is if this is all you have, great. But it's not my choice. I have one just because I actually have 2 of them because I have them. They're great. They're easy to use on someone else. I don't necessarily trust that for. You can put this on too. There's a little stretch to it. A little bit. Yeah.
What do you think of this cold weather training?
No,
I love it.
but same thing here.
Hey, you're
When
sounding
you
better.
go,
I just don't lay it. 'Cause it's the arm was down on my knees.
you got to get it locked in
Yeah.
before you can actually get here. The other thing with this is,
Cold.
like the Israeli bandage, if you need to create
Good.
a real tight pressure point with these,
Oh my.
you can't twist it
I
to
broke my
create
ass
a direct
yesterday.
pressure point and then get down again. You don't want to do that on one of the first couple of wraps because you want more wide pressure.
Which one?
Uh,
No, I didn't see that one.
but
That
then
was funny.
but then you go through there, try to wrap this thing down. You can use these to help secure bandages. The situation with the shoulder, they're long enough, you can do this. So there's a lot of uses. The trick to a lot of this stuff is take things that you can use multiple different ways. This is one of those. You can make a whole bunch of different stuff with just this. The whole shoulder retraction thing, if you're working on that, tie a knot in it. Hopefully one that won't come out while you're pulling on their arm. And you can do the same thing. It's just gonna be a lot stretchier. So when you're trying not to take 100 different things in your bag, this is fairly.
Yeah, I got a question.
Yes, sir.
Before you started, if you were to slide a stick or rod or whatever under there, can you twist it down some more later?
I did good last night.
You could, but with this, you're probably not gonna want to.
Yeah.
You run the risk of
He's gotten
with
75.
tearing with these, because
I
this is
went up
actually
there
just
and
made to
found a
wrap
good ledge.
and compress.
Made him a good little fire there.
Oh, did you talk about?
I didn't get one near enough though for the whole night. That's why we were up and down all night.
Ozzy, down.
Yeah. Okay. So
Ozzy, down.
So that was one of the other things.
Get down.
He's like,
Dog on the
"This is
table."
nice."
Oh,
Okay.
he walks all
So-
over my papers.
Dennis just asked a question just a second ago. So if you decide that you need to do the one below, for whatever reason, you decide that you want to do the one below, you cannot get adequate pressure. Say you cannot get adequate pressure. Turned this a couple of times. I just cannot get. I can't get this to work. A young one, for example, or someone who, Joey, a little bonier. You cannot get enough meat to trap against that vein to make it stop leaking. Take something else under it. It already isn't working. You can back off of it a little bit, and right there, get that, cinch back down, and then get to working from there to create additional pressure. So you're that's miserable. That works real well because hit the off switch on the feeling in my hand just there. Yeah. Yeah.
I just cut it, please.
Yeah. Take this thing off. Anybody any questions on the tourniquets?
Yeah. Can I do a live fire drill?
And this should go without saying, but I'll say it anyway because it happened in the class before one of the trauma classes I did. They go around the room, you put out flashcards. You have a mechanism of injury, and you've got the kits out in front of you. And one of the guys drew arterial neck injury. Before this guy can even stop to think, because you're trying to win this race of all this stuff, guy goes up, neckties himself, and it takes no time to blood choke yourself. So before the instructor even gets and realizes what the guy's done, this guy's taking this thing, throwing it around his neck, pumped it, and face down, hit the table on the way down, and ended up with a facial laceration about here to here, where the table just ripped his forehead open. So then they actually had a real injury to treat. But yeah, you can't put a tourniquet on a neck injury. It just doesn't work. It's
Idiot of the month award.
yeah. I mean, you're gonna have real issues. I mean, you will fix the bleed. They will stop bleeding when their heart stops beating. It's a done deal. Choke them out, they're done.
Now, is there any kind of ways to like actually fix the carotid artery? I mean, like say it. I mean, you got 30 seconds, when you're out anyway.
Yeah, you've got so. That actually is an interesting point.
Yeah, I've tried and thought about it at work all the time.
You put direct pressure on one side, and that's all you can do.
That's it.
That
I always
is-
figure maybe a pin or something like that.
A lot of the Hollywood stuff where they're like, "Oh, you can jam this inside it."
No.
Direct pressure below the injury, not above it.
Yeah.
But even then, if it's gone and it retracts back in, which is the same thing the femoral does a lot,
Yeah.
you're probably not going to find it. If it's a mechanism of injury that's super traumatic, actually severed, it's probably going to retract. So then it's going to be down here somewhere, and the chance of you doing anything about that is same thing with any of the brachial. When it comes out, it'll retract into your armpit, which is why a lot of times now you'll see there's junction tourniquets that actually have, you put them on, you can put them on, they're made for either waist area or armpit, and actually when you put them on, they actually have screw clamps that go down, and you basically are compressing an area as deep as you can. If you put it on the waist, you're putting it right here to try to get the junction coming out right above the hips and try to put direct pressure there to try to trap the artery. Same thing here. We don't have those. Not many people do. They're hundreds of dollars a piece. You can do the same thing. I mean, well, we talked about the direct pressure deal. So
You blocked the wind for me.
It's a
Oh, okay.
Kind of along the line of his question, have y'all seen the video of the hockey player that gets
Yeah.
hit with the
Yeah,
stick?
the skate came up and it got him underneath his mask.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh.
And
Severed his artery right there on the ice.
dude
Oh.
runs out and runs up to him and basically pinches it
Yeah,
off.
just starts-
and
it
they-
looks like he's choking him, but
Yeah.
he's just holding pressure. He saves the goalie's life.
yeah.
Wow.
Okay.
You got
So
lucky.
this is gonna be
Yeah,
fun.
it does.
All right. So we're in a bad situation, and they, well, we can do this two different ways. We can do it with that, or we can do it with just the knee, and it's fine. Yeah. Well, okay. So you have an arm injury and a leg injury. Which one do you treat first?
Whichever one's bleeding the worst.
Well, they're
There
both
you
going to
go.
be pumping out like crazy, but you've got an interesting thought to this. So if you're down, I'm going to get your blanket real dirty. So if you find somebody who is, say, I've been shot all up and down my right side, and I'm bleeding out here and here. You've got, it's honestly, it's a lot of times easier. You can climb on top of someone like in a mount, or like you're doing. Yeah, come here.
Doing straddling.
You're gonna put your knee right here.
Yep. You can do it with just your knee. You can do it with something else. Do I need to scoot over? Let's scoot over a little bit. Okay. So you were going to, yeah, you're gonna put that knee on it. Yeah. Okay. So now you have I have an injury to this arm and to this leg. So you can treat this way, because now you can either wrap my arm, I can wrap my arm, and then you've actually stopped this with direct pressure. The other thing that you can do, yeah. The other thing that you can do in the situation, yeah, you can take this knee. If you go opposite to opposite, so you would want to put that knee right here, and yeah, if you don't have anything else, whatever you smash in the middle of this is the least bad thing that's happened to the person you're dealing with. Because if you're in this situation where you're having to put, say, the injuries were on this side, you would take this knee, you would put it right here, and you would try to put all your weight on that leg, bear it here, to where you're either going to treat this leg and this arm at the same time by stopping the blood flow, direct pressure that way, and then either I'm going to try to fix this, someone else is trying to fix this, or you're trying to fix this as well. So same thing, if there's 2 points like that and both my legs are bleeding like that, treat one, but you would turn and try to work on the other one while you've got direct pressure on that one. So you kind of use your body and use your body weight to try to cut off blood flow. I mean, it is direct pressure. That is what it is. That's what a tourniquet does to include blood flow. You're putting direct pressure above something to trap blood flow. Same thing here and there. Just know where the structure goes. Same thing if you got an injury up here, these aren't going to work. Nothing to trap. So, I mean, people will say, "Oh, you could wrap a tourniquet around that stomach and try it." No, it's going to be a waste of time. It's not big enough.
And you guys, from a medical point of stand, trying to save somebody's life, dude, I've been in the back of an ambulance with my arms and just torso wore slap dab out doing CPR.
Yeah.
And I've stood up and latched on to the damn grab bar and put my foot in the guy's chest and used my foot doing compressions. I mean,
He was talking about the
whatever it takes.
treating more than one wound.
Yeah.
We had the Battle of Bagram there in Afghanistan,
Yep.
and a lieutenant took us into the minefield. He stepped on the mine, blew his right foot off just above the boot, and completely gone. We never found the boot or the leg or the foot. The blast took a big chunk out of his thigh
Yes.
right here, and then it also took his tricep off. And everybody's yelling "stop mines!" All the stuff we're supposed to. And the SF unit was arriving with us. They were just 2 buildings down. There are 2 medics that we arrived up with them. They just ran out into the field with us, grabbed him, and all they did was just slap 3 tourniquets
Yep.
on him. And that was it. They didn't do all this, and then they started bandaging
Yeah.
after the tournament. They never lost consciousness or nothing. So wow.
Well, and then a lot of that stuff is, especially under fire, is the expedient. Whatever you can do
Dog
to-
food.
Yeah, we were
Huh? You got the dog food, did you?
killing Taliban.
What is that?
So they're
That's what
gonna
you were talking about last night, wasn't it?
MRE.
to get them away as
Joe,
much as possible to get. I mean, they're trying
You all
to,
look at
trying to steal time back.
Oh, hungry.
They were more, yeah, right. We were locked down. We couldn't move. So he had us like 50 feet into this minefield, 60 feet into the minefield. They ran through it, you know, using where we had already stepped to get to him.
Oh, it wasn't this bad icy cold, you know, like last night, but man, yeah, we were sheltered all day. Rain, wind, rain, wind.
Dude, I got a power saw over there in the truck.
He was
I was looking around thinking,
35, 40 minutes, maybe a little longer.
heck, he needs a trees cut.
In the hospital.
Yeah, well, we got a logger out here now. We got all kinds of, well, he's starting back here now. He's already started up there. Cleared a bunch of that hillside out. He's starting.
Isn't it funny how, you know,
Check the road.
all of our combat engineers,
Pretty
they
cool.
never thought how they're always putting out T-Bears.
Hey, I tried to.
Yeah,
I was gonna get a whole lot of other stuff set up
Oh,
and
yeah,
shit out here,
honestly,
probably
we're
rocket
all-
stove, you know, so everybody kind of half-ass too warm and shit. We had a lot of family stuff go down like the day before.
Our guys didn't have
It was
I did that. I did this.